Inflation is a major concern for many people on our planet. Throughout 2020, governments in Europe and the United States were handing out money. Sure, the pandemic was rampant, and many people needed money. Businesses had to pay off loans, pay rent, insurance, wages, and unforeseen expenses. Those who lost their jobs had to be given tax breaks. Governments had to prevent public unrest. As a result, a huge amount of money was given away for free. Trillions of dollars were injected into the business sector. Hundreds of billions of dollars were spent helping the unemployed. The same amount of money had to be invested in medicine, and as much still was spent on government needs. As you can imagine, the money for these expenses had to come from somewhere. What did the United States do? They just printed and let out more money onto the domestic market. This should have magically solved all the problems. Anyone familiar with the basic principles of economics understands that a solution like this, to put it mildly, is far from being a silver bullet. According to the forecasts of leading economists, this could provoke a collapse in the United States akin to that of Venezuela, where hyperinflation devastated the state's economy. When money is handed out to ordinary people, consumer demand grows because there's more money to spend. And when demand grows, so does the supply, albeit not in quantitative terms, but in monetary terms. Let's take a look at the factors that can trigger hyperinflation around the world. And the first thing, which we've already mentioned, is the huge money supply injected into the economy. The second is the aging population around the world. In Russia, these processes have just started gaining momentum. The chart shows an increase in the number of people of retirement age. At the same time, there is a noticeable trend towards a decrease in the working age population. Ultimately, the size of the working age population will equal the dependent population, or, which is worse, become smaller than the latter. At least that is what modern worldwide statistics tell us. No matter how strong the country's economy is, its weakness in the long run will be the decreased size of the working age population. In China, instead of growth, we see a slight decline, as we do in Western and Eastern Europe. The situation is different in Africa, whose share of the global GDP, despite its large size and abundance of natural resources, does not exceed 3%. Why is the age of the working population so important? It's simple. If a country has fewer workers, then it can produce less. As a result, prices in the labor market rise, companies pay their employees more, and put these costs on the shoulders of consumers. That is, they increase the prices of goods and services. This is what leads to inflation. Of particular note is the inflationary expectations. The very waiting for such processes already causes inflation. When buyers constantly expect prices to rise, they stock up on supplies and create excessive demand, thereby increasing the cost of goods, because if demand grows, so does supply. There are other factors that can affect the growth of inflation, although their effect is not so obvious. Have you ever thought about how you can benefit or at least not lose your savings in the market shaken by inflation? Few people worldwide remember the crisis of 1998 and 2008, and fewer still know how to invest when a shock hits the economy. That is why you need to understand which assets can be protected from inflation in the first place. The World CRU token created by our company UGPay Group AG represents a stake in the global investment portfolio, which is backed by financial, foreign exchange, and cryptocurrency assets, including but not limited to real estate, basalt production, gold mining enterprises, and the innovation development sector. As such, it is completely safeguarded against any kind of inflation. Let's look into it. As we said, the WCRU token is backed by the global investment portfolio, which covers over 20 sectors of the investment business. Some of them are included in the portfolio in order not to slow down the growth rate of the assets, even in times of inflation. There are several such sectors. First, real estate. There are several factors that justify investing in this segment, even in the event of inflation. First, the value of cash declines during inflation. At the same time, depreciation of money results in reduced debts. It appears that inflation does not reduce the value of assets, but rather debts and real estate investment funds are characterized by a high level of debt burden. Secondly, during inflation, the price of real estate rises. Third, the rent per square meter also increases. It's a win no matter how you look at it. Gold is also considered a fairly safe investment. Let's explore this avenue in more detail. During inflation, the value of cash plummets, so keeping money in cash is impractical. Gold retains its value. It's a scarce commodity and does not depreciate. Investors buy it at the slightest threat of inflation. Because of this, prices for the precious resource skyrocket. This becomes clear if you take a look at statistics. Look at the data from the 70s and 80s. The annual inflation was very high, ranging from 5 to 15%. What happened to gold prices at that time? They grew at an astonishing rate, from $250 to $2,000 US. Investing in gold is one of the top priorities of our company. Another investment option when inflation is high is cryptocurrencies. All assets of the global investment portfolio are distributed amongst our investors using the World CRU token created by the Swiss company UGPay Group. During inflation, the US dollar depreciates as more and more of it gets printed, and, consequently, it costs less and less. What is World CRU? Firstly, it cannot be depreciated, since this currency has a limited issue. There is an issue limit of 80 billion tokens. When the dollar depreciates, people turn to other currencies like World CRU. Secondly, as mentioned, the token is backed by a global investment portfolio, into which more than 100 million US dollars has already been invested, and which, according to the investment valuation carried out by Crow Company, is worth more than 11 billion. In other words, its value has increased by more than 10,900% in less than 7 years, which translates into capital gains of more than 1,557% per annum. The assets have grown at the rate of more than 4% per day. Now, as a safeguard against high inflation, we've invested in real estate, gold and cryptocurrency, stock and foreign exchange markets, venture projects, the high-tech industry, the film industry, and IT technologies. What about shares of different companies? It is important to understand which of them are relevant during inflation and which are not. When inflation is on the rise, one should focus on the stocks of companies that meet the following criteria. First, the company should know how to make a profit regardless of the circumstances. Secondly, the company should be able to raise prices for its products with the increasing inflation rate. Thirdly, the company should be able to raise additional funds on favorable terms without putting its own capital at risk. For example, stocks of the financial sector always go up amid high inflation. Industrial and food stocks and deliverable futures always have a potential for growth. For example, the Coca-Cola Company thrives during inflation. They raise the price if inflation rises, thereby increasing their revenues. If inflation is really imminent, those are the shares one should buy first. Since our investment portfolio is balanced, the holders of the WCRU security token are protected from both hyperinflation and economic collapse. That is why we invest in innovative development projects, as well as the related educational sector. In a crisis, in come the new highly demanded professions and out go the old unwanted ones. One of the most demanded professions in the next 3 to 5 years will be investment consultant. Since today, there are already over 1,000 investors per one such professional. And considering that one consultant can adequately manage 50 to 80 clients, there is a serious shortage of specialists in the market. That is why one of the underlying projects in the global investment portfolio is the educational company of the Academy of a Private Investor. Its goal is to provide financial and investment education and train professional investors, investment consultants, and investment managers. These professions are already in great demand, and they're highly paid. And in the times of hyperinflation and economic collapse, the demand for this profession promises high returns for the educational program. That being said, the World CRU token cannot depreciate, because it has a limited issue. And unlike some cryptocurrencies that are not backed by anything other than the interest of users, our token is additionally backed by a global investment portfolio, which, among others, includes a portfolio of top 100 cryptocurrencies. That is, in case of inflation, the World CRU token is directly backed by instruments in the stock, foreign exchange, and cryptocurrency markets, gold, the real estate sector, and the innovative development sector. As mentioned earlier, in the event of inflation, companies can protect themselves by raising the price of the goods they sell. In our case, the global investment portfolio is protected by its flexibility, owing to the wide spectrum of our investments and, among others, by our ability to raise the price of services in a particular sector. Ultimately, the growth of certain market sectors during inflation will exceed all the costs that our company might incur. Of course, this does not eliminate all possible risks, but it makes the life of our co-owners as easy as possible. Inflation, economic crises, and collapses test the resilience of ordinary people and entire state systems. If you invest wisely, your savings will be safe. And with the WCRU token, they will grow too. Making informed investment decisions will help you achieve the best capital gains in the most difficult times. The security token WCRU. The safety of your investments is ensured by 20 sectors of the investment market, regulatory provisions, the high professionalism of our team, as well as the new consumer community, with over 1,700,000 people in more than 170 countries of the world.